So, what do I want to talk about today? Now, I'm really irritated with BCM. I'm so mad at Sergey, I cannot tell you, because I had planned to talk about BCM this week as one of the companies I think is onto a discovery, an incipient discovery. I'm trying to give people my kind of crystal ball picture of junior companies I think are onto discoveries that could make huge gains like through discovery this year. All right. BCM is definitely one. And lo and behold, Sergey goes and announces a discovery hole before I get to talk about it. Oh, man. I mean, talk about irritating. Now, look, because the markets, the stock hasn't behaved, but I will tell you this drill intercept is very, very, very good. Okay. I went out to Thompson Knoll in May of 2022. I went out there right after they drilled holes 5 and 6, which are on this map. They're kind of up around that purple arrow that I've drawn there. Okay, and hole 6 in particular, they had just finished drilling it. I got to see the core, and there was a little piece of core right at the end. I mean, the hole basically did a faceplant into a broken zone that was mineralized, but the little piece of core at the end told a tale that was very intriguing. As soon as I saw that, I said, I think Sergey's on to something here. All right, now fast forward, here we are a year later, and you can see they've announced results from hole number 8. I've shown the purple arrow shows you where hole 8 is. Now, notice with respect to the magnetic anomaly, it's just inside of it, okay? Just inside of it. And, it probably has rocks in the hole that are giving this response. Well, when they drilled this hole back in March, they announced seeing magnetite and stuff like this that would match the magnetic response we see. They also mentioned they saw chalcopyrite, and lo and behold, now they have assays to prove they have a discovery hole. 510 feet, it's about 155 meters, 0.66% copper. What they have not done here is include the gold. There's about 0.12 gram gold, and there's about 7.5 grams silver as well in this hole. So in all reality, this translates to about 0.8% copper equivalent. That's very, very good result, but it's an early result. All right. When I saw Sergey in May of 2022, I said, Sergey, how many holes do you think it's going to take to make a discovery here? Like, are we talking about, you know, 5 holes, 10 holes, 20 holes? He said, look, between 12 and 24 holes is usually when he's made his discoveries. And he's made a lot. Okay. He's the guy that drilled the discovery hole at Olyatokoy in Mongolia. Okay. So you're talking to a guy that knows his way around. All right. He knows how to make discovery, and he's made a new one here. And I'm very excited for him. And I am jesting when I say I'm irritated with him. I'm not at all. I'm absolutely delighted for him and everybody else working at BCM. I think they finally started to prove their thesis. Now, what I want to talk about here is a little background about what they're trying to find, and then showing you what the next steps are to get there. All right, let's go to the next slide. Ah, before I move forward, the miner deck. Look, I think I cut off the label down there at the bottom one time. I showed one of these charts. This is published by the miner deck. Tavi knows the fellow. I don't know him directly, but I want to acknowledge that first of all, and make sure that that credit is given there. But BCM's drill intercept did make it was the third high copper intercept of this week, right? And if you look at the other copper intercepts, Aris Minerals has a lower grade intercept, very long lower grade intercept. You have also the Atico Mining's intercept, which of course is a wholly different type of system. It's about 3.4% copper over 32 meters. But when you look at BCM in terms of a porphyry intercept, that's pretty dang good number. Okay, 0.66% copper. That is a very, very solid result. And a lot of people email and they say, well, it's kind of deep. Well, hold on a minute. Block cave these days, 0.66% copper, no problem, especially when you got gold and silver credits like this. This is something that can be mined. This is likely an economic level of metal in this core. All right, let's go to the next slide. All right, so what are we looking at? We're looking at a porphyry system. Okay, this shows you a very schematic picture of a porphyry. These are usually intrusions that come up. They might have a volcanic edifice at surface. In other words, they formed a volcano. But these porphyries come up and they park themselves maybe a few kilometers, like 2, 3, 4 kilometers below surface. And as they cool and they crystallize and they kind of flush out the fluids and metals from them, the fluids go outwards. Now, as the intrusion comes up, it cooks the rock around it, and it forms what we call skarn. It can also form CRDs and stuff like this, but I'm going to focus on the skarn right now. And the skarn is shown in that light brown color. Okay, skarn is basically cooked up rock. It's thermally metamorphosed. It's thermally changed rock that's been cooked by the intrusion when it was cooling. And oftentimes the fluid from the intrusion then subsequently penetrates into that rock, and the mineralization is hosted by the skarn. And that's what we're seeing at Thompson Knolls. Okay, so a big porphyry system with a halo. Think of it like a halo of skarn around it. Let's go to the next slide. Now, the one difference is between that picture and this picture is at Thompson Knoll, this thing is buried. Why have I drawn this yellow thing? Well, there's about 1,500 feet of gravel, something like that, at least at this location where they were drilling, where they had to drill through alluvium, basically sheet wash, gravels and stuff that have filled up the basin out here. And they're testing down and they're trying to find this thing. So that gives you a sense of how challenging it is to make a discovery. You have to drill through that yellow stuff and get down into the porphyry and skarn to make a discovery. I mean, your odds are like slightly better than if you'd never been born at all in many respects. But a guy like Sergei can run circles around this. Okay, he can walk up and he can go, I have a pretty good feeling it's about here, and I'll try this. And then, well, that didn't quite so I'm gonna move over here, try that. And he feels his way into the thing and makes discovery. Okay, and that's what it's all about. Let's go to the next slide. All right. So what I've done here is I've taken that map that showed all the drill holes and stuff, and I put my own little colored dots on there. Okay, some of the dots are ones from the map that I can't erase or whatever, but I've drawn new dots on here and I made them different colors so I can talk about them. First of all, hole number 8, the one that hit the 155 meters of 0.66% copper, is the one in orange. All of my dots, by the way, have a little blue rim around them. Okay, so 8 is the orange dot. All right, it's over there in the western margin of this magnetic feature. Now, right now, Sergey is drilling up that pink dot, hole 14. Why is he drilling that? Well, because he thinks that there's basically a rind. Okay, that pink thing that I've drawn around this is a rind of skarn that's around the intrusion. Okay, so I've kind of represented it. I did my best. I just kind of drew a pink halo around the mag feature. And he's trying to poke a hole straight down that skarn body, okay, that rims the porphyry. Right now, where do we go next? Well, he's talked about drilling over on the east side as well. So I put 4 yellow dots in here to show other targets. He hasn't picked the exact location yet, so hold tight. By the way, holes 9 and 10 were drilled. They hit marble, which is a little bit too distal from the skarn, so they're outside of the skarn body. Yeah, so what? People were like, they didn't hit on those two. What? Who cares? Okay, we now know where the skarn is. It's slightly inboard from there. All right, so the yellow dots show you where Sergey plans to go drill. He wants to drill on the east side, so he's probably going to drill some one way over there, whatever number that is, like 15. That's a proposed hole. Maybe one on the north side. Okay, he also wants to drill kind of between holes 8 and 14, the orange and the pink dots, but a little bit further to the northwest. Might drill a hole out there. And he also might drill a hole due south of hole 8, where you see a yellow dot on the far western margin of this intrusion. But basically, we're starting to see a picture take shape here. This is amazing. Okay. And people say, is this an economic deposit? Absolutely. A skarn body of a few 100 million tons at these kind of grades will be highly valuable especially in this location in this day and age. No problemo. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, now hole 6 was that hole that I got to see the very last piece of cord. In fact, this is a picture from the tail end of that hole. Okay, why is this important? Well, this is magnetite skarn. So the dark gray is magnetite that's flooded the limestone that used to be here. It's basically been altered and cooked to magnetite now. And then you can see some kind of gold minerals kind of creeping through there. That's chalcopyrite. Boy, as soon as I saw that chalcopyrite, which is a copper rich mineral, I got excited. I'm like, I think Sergey might be onto something here. So this piece of rock actually convinced me that at some point, as they continue to drill, they would find the mothership, and I think they've now found it. But this was the first little, we'll call it little taste of success. All right, let's go to the next slide. Now, a few months ago, when they were drilling hole 8, they put out a news release and talked about seeing visible chalcopyrite and stuff. This is a similar piece of skarn. This is more of a probably a diopside, skarn, but there's some magnetite, the kind of dark gray wispy stuff going through there is magnetite. Again, that magnetic response that we see in the geophysics is a product of that. But you can see the big blobs of this brassy, yellowy, orange stuff. That's chalcopyrite. Okay, this is beautiful looking mineralization. This is part of that intercept that was announced this week. Very, very high grades of copper in the areas where you see this high density of chalcopyrite. Okay, this is our ore body. This is basically our target, the mineralization that we've been hoping to hit, and they found it. All right, let's go to the next slide. Now, one last slide before I leave this. Okay, this is a representation. That's perfect schematic rendition of a cross section here, but I've shown them my porphyry model with the overburden in yellow, and I've shown 4 drill holes here. Now, why did I do this? Because I want to show you how Sergei's mind kind of works here. Okay. Now, the black drill hole represents hole number 3, I think it was, that hit porphyry. It got just down into the porphyry and got a little bit of a taste of it. And that was drilled about 2 years ago. Yes, 2 years ago. I know everybody wants to see instantaneous success, instant discoveries. It takes time, it takes science, it takes money, it takes patience, it takes, intuition and dedication to make discovery. But hole 3 told us there was a porphyry. It had some mineralization, not economic, but it was an interesting intercept. Okay, now if we go over to the blue line, that was hole 6 from last year, and you can see the blue line goes down, and it just touches. It just touched the margin of the skarn. Okay, and that piece of core that I showed a photo of a couple slides back, that was the piece of core from the very end of that hole. And when I saw that, I was like, I think Sergei has something going here. All right. But he did, that hole ended in a broken zone, unfortunately. So he wasn't able to make the discovery with that drill hole. Okay, now the green hole represents hole 8. That's the one that's just been drilled, and it went down, it went through the gravels, it went into skarn mineralization. So there's 155 meters of good mineralization in the skarn, that kind of brownish color stuff that it intercepted. Okay, the bottom of the hole kind of drifted out of the economic stuff, but there was a really solid result in that drill hole. Great. Okay, now what are they doing right now? Well, Sergei says, I think I'm going to drill hole 14 because I think I can lance the skarn in its entirety, basically chase it down. All right, so the red hole represents the hole that they're drilling right now. Okay, and touch wood, I really hope we see a big stomp. Now I'm not, intercept out of this hole. Now I can't promise it. Okay, nobody can promise it, but the concept is, hey, maybe hole 14 might go down the skarn a little more favorably and like chase it down and see how extensive this is. Okay, but if it doesn't hit, hey, we come back and we try it from a slightly different angle or different position or something. But this is the kind of thought process that goes through Sergei's mind. He's trying to find that body down there, and I think he's getting closer and closer to it. What could they hit? They could hit a few 100 million tons, a few 100 million, maybe, who knows, maybe something really big, maybe 1 billion tons of skarn mineralization down there. At these kind of grades, wonderful stuff. All right.